I've lectured in hundreds and hundreds of public schools, high school, secondary schools, and in colleges on scientific creation. But it's because of the excavations and the evidence we have. But do you know that the high school teacher herself cannot introduce scientific creation unless it is done with a secular intent, which means to leave a creator out completely? And if she does introduce it, the American Civil Liberties Union will take her to court for even mentioning it. So the introduction was made. It really would be unfair to have one concept of life origins taught. This is what the American Civil Liberties Union and Clarence Darrow, the proponent, it really is unfair, unacademic to have one concept of life origins taught without giving the alternate view in the educational system. And I would agree with that. So evolution was permitted, and for a while creation could be taught. Now guess what has happened? Evolution has been completely redefined so as to leave out any concept of a designer or a creator. While it is natural science, we deal with the natural world. So then they have taken that a step further and say that it must have been naturalistically produced. No, wait a minute. Science can tell you how it was produced, except in its complexity, and then you see it had to have a designer. Real science does not defend evolution as the cause. So now it has been redefined as change over time. Well, what doesn't change over time? Who doesn't change over time? Why am I wearing this archaeology vest? Well, first of all, because I have degrees in archaeology and I do archaeological work. Secondly, I need something to hold me together. Change over time. But what they do not tell you is, and what they will not permit you to discuss is, that change over time is always limited to the genetic information already in place in the organism. Did you get that? I can change a lot. I have changed a lot. But I'm still a human being. Don't ask my wife. No. She told me she loved me this morning, and I appreciated that. But we're still human beings. Dogs are still dogs. Cats are still cats. So number one, what they will not permit you to really discuss openly is that change is always limited to the genetic information already in place in that organism. Secondly, they will not permit you to discuss the fact that the change is always downhill. How many of you are prettier now than you were 15 years ago? No hand. Oh, okay. And your husband? Okay. All right. Happy Valentine's Day. Way to go. I'll tell you what, you're prettier because he's doing right by you and taking care of you, and that brings out the beauty. Okay. All right. And he looks, it's obvious, he looks happier too. Okay. Oh, let me ask you, how long have you known each other? 25. Wow. There are exceptions to the rule. Anyhow, the exceptions make the rules stand. The rest of us are going downhill. and we're going downhill fast, real fast. So, but in time, those age wrinkles will show. I turned 82 last fall, and I don't run quite as fast as I used to. I think about running fast, but it stops right there. Okay, back to the idea. So, to get parity in the educational system, it was demanded. Well, the students should certainly know what evolution is about. Let them make up their own decision. They should. I really think evolution should be taught in the public and private school system with the understanding that all the facts pertaining to it will be taught. Evolution is absolutely bankrupt. It never increases in complexity. It always loses in complexity. But that part is not taught. The change over time is envisioned to be a gradual accretion of more favorable genetic points to the genome, and here you are as a higher creature. That has never occurred in the laboratory. It has never occurred in the field. It's only occurred in the mind of the evolutionist. But our entire generation is programmed to think that way. And it's shocking to them for us to say and for us to give evidence that the earth is young. The universe is young. Man and dinosaur lived contemporaneously. And this tooth that got evolution in the public school system was a pig's tooth. It had nothing to do with apes and men. So let's get the rest of the story. The facts were not considered generally newsworthy. The press just quietly said nothing about it. But it did appear in Science, 1927. Now, whoops. When did Henry Fairfield Osborn get the tooth? 1923. When did he use it in the Scopes, or when did Clarence Darrow use it in the Scopes evolution trial? 1925. They already knew that it had nothing to do with apes or human beings. So they let the publicity, the imagery, take its full toll in the general populace. So then finally in Science, how many of you read Science magazine? I get it, but NASA guy, do you read Science magazine?
I read very little except the Bible.
Oh, well, good for you. He finally he got the whole thing straight. He reads the Bible. So very few people would read it in Science. So the public at large still held, and I'm going to show you in a moment, that to which they held as a result of the deception that was carried about. And you're going to see an actual tooth from the same jaw. Okay, let's get serious. The 14th edition of Encyclopedia Britannica, read that next date, 1929. Didn't come out for the general populace to read until 4 years after the trial was over, until the imagery had already been set in the public mind. They coyly admitted that a mistake had been made and that the tooth belonged to, read those next words for me, please. A being of another order. They didn't admit how ridiculous, it was a pig. Wow. The burden of embarrassment was thus eased for the now retired Henry Fairfield Osborn. So to soothe his feelings and ease the burden on him, it just said a being of another order. Well, what about just telling the good old-fashioned patriotic American flag-waving truth? That's what got us here.